All righty.
So we are joined by a licensed professional counselor, the owner and founder of Jeep Gibbs Consulting, Regina Hood. We thank you so much for joining us today as we wind down our speakers for the year. This is our college career readiness class here at Velma Jackson High School, and we're recording this for all of our friends in Madison County Schools, Madison Central, Ridgeland High School, Germantown High School, the Academic Options Center, and our YouTube channel. So thank you so much for taking some time for us today.
Thank you for having me. It is a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, and we really want to talk about, things to look for in mental health, why people should seek therapy. But before we do, we want to talk about your background. You're a graduate of the W. We've had
Yes.
some of our alums come out of there recently. So great university up there. So take us back to your college experience at the W.
Yes. Well, I started, I wasn't the traditional student. I was married with a child and working and trying to go to school at the same time. So I was doing a lot of night classes and in between lunch breaks and taking off, going there. But it was a pleasure to be on campus because it was so rewarding because the campus is so beautiful for one,
Yes.
and the staff there is excellent. And then I had to, the pleasure of being in the room, with younger ones, of course, and I was a little older at the time, and so I graduated in 2003, and so I was seasoned in one part of my life, and then they were seasoned in the other part, and so we just kind of worked together. So it was a good match.
Well, and I say this all the time, and people think I'm joking, but I'm dead serious. As kids start making their college choice, I have never heard one person, whether it be black, white, male, female, not have anything but positive things to say about their experience at Mississippi University for Women. So they're doing
Absolutely.
something right. So I
That's
really
right.
encourage everybody to really look into the programs they have, whether they're out of community college or out of high school, because I think they're doing a great job up there.
Absolutely.
All
Yes.
right, so you are a licensed professional counselor, and we've talked with some other ones about how to become one. But I think it's important for these kids to realize that as you move through high school and into your college and your career, it's not a matter of if. No matter who you are, mental health and trauma are things that do not discriminate, and they are going to affect all of us. And I think it's
Absolutely.
important to realize that there are things that could happen in our life that we have no control over. And the
Hmm.
key is, and again, this is just me speaking as a teacher, not as a mental health professional. The key
Sure.
is to not let those things that have become triggers control our destinies.
That's right.
And that's where you come into play. So, talk about some of the things that you see with young people as they, get through high school and start moving into that next step in life that is a lot more common than they might realize.
Yes. And when you look at mental health, that's a subject that needs to be expound on a little more anyway. And as the teenagers, as they get ready to start on that brink of that new chapter in their life, it's important to understand that even though graduating is going to be an important milestone, it also can bring a lot of challenges, and also a lot of uncertainty and pressure and stress because they're getting ready to embark on adulthood, and that could be challenging all in itself. We're already struggling with social media and the acceptance, and that's just not in teenage years, that's also in adult as well. So as a transition into adulthood and the workforce, and also going off to college, trying to fit in, the competitiveness, the fear, of missing out when they're having to do their work and when other people on campus may be partying, as they say, and you want to compare your life to them. So you have to really be able to set those boundaries for yourself because it is important to do that. And not only to look out for your mental health, but to look at your physical as well, because they all go together. Getting the proper rest at night, having those boundaries that you need to set, not being on the internet too long. So just maintaining a sense of well wholeness in life is important. And sometimes it's kind of hard to manage.
Yeah, and you mentioned something there that I'm glad you did because I don't care who you are. I went to
Hmm.
Madison when I graduated with around 500 students. This was before originally in Germantown because I'm old. I'm
Yes.
old as well. So,
Mhm.
I went to University of Southern Mississippi. Even then, it was extremely overwhelming to be in a room with 300 or 400 people in a
Yes,
class. It is very easy to get lost in the shuffle. I don't care who you are. I don't care how popular you
absolutely.
may have been in high school. If you're an introvert, it's even tougher. So it is a huge adjustment mentally, no matter where you go to school, to get into that new style of learning, new style of socialization, and around people with backgrounds you may not be accustomed to.
Absolutely. And I've had a lot of, young adults, that as they embark on going to college, it's a big wake up call for them. And it brought a lot of anxiety and stress based on what you're saying. They're used to having that one-on-one in the classroom and talking to the professors afterwards. And now it's like they get into college and it's like, where is that support? You know, where's that support at? And you're not going to be able to always talk to the professor right after class, right? And I noticed with young adults, they didn't have to study as much when they were in high school, and then they get to college. It's like, oh my goodness, it's like it's different now. I'm having it. It makes them feel as if they're not good enough when
Yeah.
they get into college. You know.
Yeah, and I think it's important, and I think especially here in Mississippi, these universities, community colleges are doing
Mhm.
a great job of offering mental health services for free on campus.
Absolutely.
And I think it's very important for everybody to understand, whether they're watching this now with me, and we got a couple people watching in other rooms, and people that see this later. Just
Mhm.
because you think you need help, that does not mean you're crazy. It does not mean you're sick. It does not mean that you are somehow have some kind of disease. It just means that you need help. It is perfectly normal. And for a long time, that was a stigma in the Black community and in other communities because
Yes, it was.
we don't have suicidal issues. But in the
Mhm.
last few years, that has proven to be false.
Right. And I just want to emphasize that it's okay, to seek help. It's not a sign of weakness. It's a wide range of emotions during that time of the year, and throughout the year. So it's important to recognize that when you might need that extra support to seek it out and don't be ashamed, to talk to someone about it.
Yeah, what are some of the other issues? Because I mean, like I've already dated myself when I talk about that some of the high schools weren't even built when I went through high school. So,
Mhm.
what are some of these issues that you may have seen in your work with things that may cause stress or mental health um, obstacles for young people as they transition out of high school?
Definitely body image, comparing is one, cyberbullying is another one, and also being taken advantage of. There's a lot of research with females being engaged in inappropriate behaviors due to being at parties and not recognizing that, hey, somebody put something in my drink, and they're still doing that. That when I was younger, they always told us keep that cup in your hand. you know because even then, and I'm a 70s baby, I was cognitive of we can't leave our cups at the table when we was out. And now, even if you're not in, a sports club, or you can just be hanging out with your friends, and you are susceptible to being drugged, unfortunately. And so I have a lot
Wow.
of yeah, young adults have come to therapy with trauma based on taken advantage of, in a negative way by being out what they say call friends
Wow.
also. Yeah. And cyberbullying was definitely a big one. And also body image.
Well, and I'll share this with you later whenever we get done. We had a speaker earlier this semester from Des Moines, Iowa, that talked
Hmm.
about how to recognize domestic violence because it can
Yes.
start off very subtle and it can be a disaster,
Yes.
not just
Hmm.
physically, but mentally and emotionally for
Absolutely.
everyone involved.
Yeah.
And she did make it very clear that even though the most common is male and female, men can be abused too. And I think that's something that happens when
Yes.
people say, well, you're a male, you can't be abused. That is false.
Mm.
So,
That's right.
that's very, and again, that doesn't mean you're crazy. It means anybody can be a victim. And I think
That's
that's
right.
important for especially at our school. We're a small school. We're a rural
Hmm.
community. A lot of
Hmm.
these kids have big dreams that we support them in. And
Yes.
we have some that want to go to some major universities, and we think they'll be very successful. But it is very easy when you have not been around certain types of groups, certain
Right.
situations to find yourself a victim. And again, that doesn't mean you're stupid, but it's
That's
important
right.
to guard yourself and to be able to seek help if those situations happen.
Absolutely. I'm going to share some research here
Sure.
that I've gathered. Is according to CDC and the National Institute of Mental Health, the rates of depression, anxiety, and suicide among teens has been on the rise in the recent
Wow.
years. And so, one, suicide is the second leading cause of death among individuals with the age of 10 to 24. This is our group that we're talking to right now. Okay. And in 2020, the suicide rate among adolescent and young adults increased by 47% from the previous decades. And then also looking at depression, approximately 20% of teens will experience depression before they reach adulthood. Hint,
Yeah.
hint, right? And so if you don't know the symptoms of depression, such as persistent sadness, loss of interest in activities, change in your sleep or appetite, and feeling worthless, can significantly impact teens' quality of life and overall well-being. And let me just kind of add this caveat as well. When we look at depression, it looks different amongst teenagers, okay? You may see a lot of irritability and anger. So you may not see the sadness. And I want to encourage the community, teachers, and their parents to understand, just because you think of the word depression, well, no, okay, depression, I'm sad. Well, it doesn't always look that way, okay? So make sure that you understand that it can look a little different.
Absolutely. And again, especially those going to college, whether it be community college or university, seek out those free mental health services that are available on campus.
Absolutely.
Schools do a great job now, and
Mhm.
they will, if they can't help you, they will find somebody who can.
They
They
will.
are starting to recognize that there are triggers. They are starting to recognize that there are real issues, and they want the students to be successful. And for all they might not even know something could have already happened to them. And this
Mhm.
is just me speaking as a layperson. Something that has already happened to them several years ago could affect them in
Absolutely.
college, and it's never come to fruition. So
That's
again,
right.
it's important to understand that's not your fault. People are born into abusive homes. People are born into around drug addiction, and there's nothing you can do to change that. But what you can do is change the way your path ends.
That's right. And it's not their fault because they're in a certain environment. And as you stated before, they can bring over those negative experiences into their adulthood, into their personal life, their job, and in school. And it can affect you in many ways. So it's important to explore, even if you think that you're okay. It's okay to, just like you have a wellness visit, it's okay to go and just kind of rule out some things, just to do a check in to make sure that you're okay. Again, I've worked with young adults and teenagers for a long time, and a lot of times they come in and say, I'm fine. And then they're triggered. And that's another, caveat that you got to remember. Sometimes you may be triggered by something from your childhood and you may find yourself crying. You don't know where that came from. Unfortunately, we as people in general, we tend to suppress and we'll disassociate, and it comes up if somebody says something or they smell something or they hear something. And then that is definitely what we call a trigger.
Yeah, and it can be anything, and I think it's important, and it can affect people in their careers, it can affect people in their families. So getting those under
Mhm.
control, knowing how to recognize them and cope, and everybody's coping skills are different, everybody's coping
That's
practices are
right.
different. So
That's
that's why
right.
it's important to seek help, so you know how to deal with that when the time comes.
That's
Now,
right.
another thing I did want to talk about is that if somebody is interested in being a counselor, because we need a more diverse pool of counselors. We need more women. We need more people that are bilingual. We need more people that are we need more young black kids to get into counseling. Even though we
Absolutely.
got some great counselors here, we need to, the people that serve need to represent the people that they are serving
That's it.
to a proportionate amount. So if somebody was interested in becoming a counselor, what are something, what is the process? I know every state is different. So in
Yeah.
Mississippi, what are the requirements to become a licensed professional counselor?
Well, first of all, you have to attend at least a four-year university, accredited, of course. You have to have a major in at least psychology or family consumerism or social work. You can definitely start there. Human growth development, you got to have all of those core courses in undergrad. And once you complete undergrad, you have to obtain a master's, 2.5 year or 95 hours to 65 hours of coursework in a graduate study university that is KCREP, of course. And after that, you would have to do internships, which you would have to acquire at least 3,500 hours, of practical hours in the field before even obtaining a license. And after you've reached your 3,500 hours, then you can sit before the board.
Yeah, and there are so many places that you can get your hours of observation. So
Yes,
many places that they need people that are training, that they need people to see these clients, they need people to teach. So
yes.
that is that sounds like a lot, but that's
It is
actually
a
very
lot, but
doable.
it's,
And
it's
most of it
yeah,
you can do while you're still in school. So it really that's something that I've learned. A lot of it you can do
that's
while you're
right.
still in school, and because they need people to be able to get certified and be able to start working. So there's a
Absolutely.
lot of ways and a lot of hold on, I got people at my door. Give me one moment.
Sure.
I apologize, they're hitting me up with teacher appreciation stuff.
That's
um
okay. This is a busy year.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Now you're all, but besides being a professional counselor, you're also an entrepreneur. And even if somebody is not interested in anything counseling related, because obviously everybody can't do it, we have a lot of kids say they're
Mhm.
interested in entrepreneurship. And whether it be, we've had several students come through Velma Jackson that have started their own business, and some of them, and most of them, it's just
Yeah,
a side hustle, but they're still doing very well. But a lot of them had to learn some things, and I think that's important because you've mentioned about how social media shapes perception and how it shapes a distorted sense of reality. And I think
absolutely.
one of the main places it's done that is with young entrepreneurs because they see the glitzy side, they see the
They
Instagram
do.
post, they hear the songs about when I'm going to move to Atlanta, open a business, and be rich. And
Mm,
that can happen, but it's not just
yes.
something that happens overnight. And I always think it's funny. I tell this story all the time. We have another guest of this class. She's the owner of Happy Tummy's GI Clinic in Flowood, Dr.
Okay.
Angela Shannon. She's the only black GI pediatric doctor in the state of Mississippi. So she's got this long list of accolades. But she said,
Wow.
I didn't have a clue. I didn't have a clue how to run a business. And there's a learning curve everybody has. So you can have the best product, you can have the most credentials, you can have the coolest logos, but you got to learn how to run a business. And there's a lot of planning
That's
that goes
right.
in. So talk about the learning curve that you had as an entrepreneur because you were already an established counselor, but it was a new venture for you.
Right. First of all, you have to kind of identify your niche, your passion. And one philosophy that I've lived by, if you find a need, you find your purpose. And that, if you look at a need that's in this world today, based on your skill set, not someone else's. Again, you mentioned it before. You may see a lot of other people, showing them that's on the internet, and you may say, "Oh, I want to do that." But is that your niche? Is that something that you need to be, pursuing? So I think it's important, first of all, to understand what's your niche. What is something that you are really passionate about that you can talk about without even thinking about it?
Absolutely.
I know this is a need and I can fulfill that need, that skill set is all. Go and get in a trade if you have to, have workshops, personal development, any of those things that you know that you need to do to encompass for you to broaden your, your skill set, then formulate a mentor. Don't do it on your own. That's one thing that I learned. I thought I knew it all, and also it was like life is not that utopia as you think it is. And so you find yourself having to not recreate the wheel, but just going out and seek mentorship. That's one thing I do encourage our young adults to do. Get a mentor, get an accountability partner. Sit at the table with people that are different than you. Learn strategies from other people in different areas. If you're not a good money manager and you have a business, you got to learn how to manage your money. If
Absolutely.
you don't have good time management, you have to learn to have good time management, which is prioritizing so you won't overwork yourself or underwork yourself,
Yeah.
and so those are some things that is very important. And you want to make sure that you make your business legit. you know get that LLC to your business, because if not, it's just a hobby. Okay. You want to be able to pay your taxes, you want to be able to talk to an accountant, so it comes with all these different entities. So it's not just yourself. You have to build a network in order to become successful. It's almost like you have to have a team. Okay. Like for
Absolutely.
myself, I can't market just myself because I have clients that I have to work with, right? And so that means I had to go out and get a marketing team. And so,
Mhm.
and if you're not really good at freelancing or of marketing, you got to learn to get that done or either hire somebody in. And that's something that people tend to not, factor in. They just think I'm just going to start this business and I know what I'm doing. Well, it takes mindset to run a business.
All right. Well, I do have a couple questions from the students, and these are pretty deep. So I'm going to get to as many of these as I can. This first one is Shania Kyles. She's a junior here, one of our Blue Diamond dancers at Velma Jackson. Excellent student, wants to go to Mississippi Valley State and major in business.
Hear you.
But she asked, I'm sorry, we got a little lag. I apologize. I think we're having some connection issues. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. You was lagging a little bit. I can hear you
Yeah.
now, but it's still a little lagging
Yeah.
in and out, but I can
It had
hear
a
a little
little lag
better.
on my end too, but I'll try to get this question in because I like this question. And if I can't get it on the recording, I'll type it in.
Okay.
Um, but this is Shania Kyles, and I'll just type it because I know we're having some issues. I'm typing it in the chat so we won't have any
Okay. I'm looking at it now,
issues.
waiting on it to come through. Okay, one question here. So why do you think Black families feel that depression isn't important? Um, a lot of cultural values are different. It is based on a lot of spirituality. And unfortunately, due to that strong faith that's in the Black community, a lot of the stigma of depression may be overlooked because they may feel like that's of the devil, or that you'll be okay if you pray about it, and not recognize that, from a spiritual perspective, that God cares about the soul, and the soul consists of your mind, your will, and your emotions, what we think, what we do, and how we feel. Okay. And so just getting that education on that information about mental health is important. And now it's starting to kind of lift a little bit now. There's been a paradigm shift in the Black community more now, not so much
Yep.
in as men, but the women. And I think, with the mothers, sisters and that are getting that information and education on mental health, that maybe it can be, introduced to the African American male. But a lot of the reason of that is the background of the faith and the cultural ness of the being together and what they've learned in the past, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I know you're a faith-based counselor, and the faith is extremely important, especially to your work. But that doesn't mean you can't work with strategies along with the faith together.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And then she had a second question I put in the chat.
What are some things that you think make Black kids more introverted? I don't want to single out, just say Black kids are more introverted. I think that could be, either or. It could be introvertedness does not just have to do with race. It could be in any culture, any race, or gender or ethnicity. It's all about the exposure and your but just to speak to introvert, it may be because of exposure, and it's not just because you don't know things or you're not smart. It's just you probably would things. Me as an African American mom, I was intentional in introducing my daughter to be a little bit more world, rounded and diverse, and put her in certain situations. But unfortunately, due to finances or due to educational background and some emphasis on, that goes into the imposter syndrome, where you feel like here. And again,
All right, I had one more
were you
question in the
able?
chat. Yeah.
Okay. She's a junior, as well as she asks, do mental health issues start in teens or when someone is younger? Do you think mental health facilities have a positive or negative? Well, again, when it comes to environment, when it comes to teens, yes, because of the brain development. Think about, your brain doesn't get fully developed to 5. Okay, so you are more susceptible to internalizing thought distortions, comparing, trying to fit in, the FOMO, the
FOMO, fear of missing out.
so yes, those are some significant reason why it would be more impactful on teenagers. However, when it comes to facilities being a positive or negative, it just depends on the facilities. I've
Yeah.
worked in some great facilities, okay, that was a very forthcoming and had the bandwidth to provide the skills that they needed for teens. However, I've worked in some that were not, and of course, when it comes to working or being engaged in different facilities, you always look at the value system. What are your values that you hold? And if those values do not align with yours, then that
Yep.
is not the best. Okay, I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, and then and also you got to look at who they serve and how they serve. That's extremely important as well.
Any more questions? And you were lagging a little bit, but that's okay.
All right, sorry about that. We're having some connection issues, and we're almost out of time. And we thank you so much for taking some time for us. This has just been such a great issue and such a great topic for us to talk about. But before we
Absolutely.
go, a couple things. First of all, Where can we find your website?
You can find my website at ggivesconsulting.com. That's two
And
G's.
yeah, and then lastly, as these kids are, GGIVES consulting.com.
Consultant.com. Yes.
I forgot to add that. But as these kids are getting ready to transition to either high school seniors, college freshmen, wherever they're headed, it's important to
Yes.
realize, like we said, they're going to have mental health obstacles. But why should they always seek help when they need it?
It's important to seek help because every minute counts. You got to remember that every minute counts. And mental health is a very important part of all of our lives. And you don't want to allow any negative thought distortions, insecurities, or stigmas to hold you back from getting the help that you need. Okay.
Absolutely. And I think you can speak for most mental health professionals. If you're not able to help somebody, you will help them find somebody who can.
That's right.
Every mental health person I know, it's not about them. They really want to help the person if they are not able to help them.
That's right. And you want to make sure that you take advantage of your crisis lines. You have the 988 crisis line. You got the crisis text. You can text home to 741741. Okay. Teens under pressure, you can also call 1-800-656-4673. Okay.
That's awesome. Well, again, we thank you for fitting this in your schedule today. This was so great. We got to do this again next year. But Regina Hood,
Absolutely.
licensed professional counselor, founder of G Gives Consulting. Thank you so much for joining us today.
You're so welcome. Have a good day.
I talk to you soon.